ADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar, 1 o'clock in Lagos. Good afternoon, and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM around the world on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Trial of former Malian Prime Minister Moussa Mara opens in Bamako.
Nous avons attendu ce moment parce que l'homme.
We have long awaited this moment because the man appearing before the judges on Monday has always taken responsibility and respected the summons of his country's justice system. We call on all our people and supporters to stand with him.
Guinea's opposition slams new election date sides ECOWAS deal breach. Ivorian religious leaders call for peace ahead of October 25 elections. And international relations expert welcomes USA visa restriction reversal on Ghana, but criticizes country for accepting West African deportees.
It's good news for a large segment of the Ghanaian population, but also the fact that we had to violate our own laws to be able to attain that status or restore that relationship between us and the U.S. It's not good.
Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Thank you for joining our broadcast. We begin this bulletin in Mali, where the trial of Moussa Mara opens this Monday before the cybercrime court. Detained since August 1, the former prime minister is being prosecuted for damaging the credit of the state and opposing legitimate authority. He had posted a message on social media in which he said he was fighting by all means so that the sun would succeed the night. His close associates are already mobilizing to support him. Abdullah Hassan has the details in this report.
Nearly 2 months after his detention at Kulikoro prison, Moussa Mara is expected to appear before the judges of the cybercrime unit. On the eve of his trial, his relatives are preparing to show their support. They consider him a valuable figure for his country. Hamidou Doumbouya is spokesperson for his communication team.
Nous avons attendu ce moment parce que l'homme qui se présentera devant les juges.
We have long awaited this moment because the man appearing before the judges on Monday has always taken responsibility and respected the summons of his country's justice system. His commitment remains unwavering, so much so that even while incarcerated, he continued supporting social initiatives for his compatriots worth several million francs. Moussa Mara is a man of value to his society. We call on all our people and supporters to stand with him, keep him in their thoughts, and above all, pray for him.
The former prime minister is facing charges including damaging the credit of the state and opposing legitimate authority. In a message posted last July on his social media, Moussa Mara wrote, and I quote, "As long as the night lasts, the sun will eventually appear," just days after visiting several detainees whom he described as prisoners of conscience. This is therefore a national anticipated trial within national public opinion and among human rights organizations who are calling for his release.
Bamako correspondent Ali Cham's report presented by Abdullah Hassan. Now, as Ivorians prepare to go to the polls on October 25, Muslims and Christian religious leaders are once again raising their voices to preach peace less than a month before the vote. An appeal has also been directed to the outgoing president, Alassane Ouattara. Now the detailed reports.
Ahead of the presidential election, religious leaders are calling on politicians to demonstrate maturity, put the nation's interests first, and avoid actions driven by personal ambition. Here is a spokesperson for the religious leaders, Imam Ouattara Bashir.
To Ivorian political leaders and activists, whether your candidacy has been accepted, rejected, or not submitted, the Holy Scriptures remind us to have humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with one another in love and maintain unity through the bond of peace. You have a heavy responsibility to show both national and international audiences that politics is a tool to build a humane society. By overcoming prejudices related to your past, you must reassure citizens of your intentions.
En faisant démentir les préjugés défavorables à votre passif, vous devez rassurer les populations de vos intentions.
The religious leaders also called on Ivorian media to play a decisive role in consolidating peace and responsibly facilitating political debate.
Votre responsabilité.
Your role in maintaining the country's social balance is crucial. By keeping your pens, microphones, and cameras free from the negative emotions stirred by the August 2025 presidential elections, you'll be serving all of Côte d'Ivoire.
Service à toute la Côte d'Ivoire.
Finally, addressing the head of state once again, the religious leaders encouraged him and his government to continue efforts aimed at the well-being of the population and national unity.
Nous vous exhortons à user de tout.
We urge everyone to use all available means to preserve peace in our beloved country. Mr. President, no sacrifice is too great for the stability of our nation. We encourage you to show empathy, assess the current circumstances, and do everything necessary to maintain calm and tranquility in the national community.
Dans la communauté nationale.
Abidjan correspondent Master Aston Blaze report presented by Nadidi Tete. Well, similarly, in Togo, the bishops have announced a month of intense prayers for the country starting in October. The decision was taken by the Conference of Bishops of Togo at a time when the country is experiencing a tense socio-political situation. Imo Edet reports.
According to the Bishop of Palime and President of the Conference of Bishops, the initiative is intended to seek divine blessing for Togo and to pray for a future of peace and justice. Father Emile Segbedi is the Secretary General of the CET.
The
numerous social, political, and economic challenges facing our country, along with the tensions they bring, should not lead us into despair or cloud our hopes for peace, well-being, and joy. With renewed trust in God, let us, brothers and sisters, deepen our prayers for our nation, not as a mechanical routine, but as a vital, heartfelt act.
Un souffle vital.
The Bishop's initiative is part of the Catholic Church's tradition of dedicating the month of October to the Rosary, a Marian devotion that dates back several centuries. Father Emile Segbedi again.
Le mois du rosaire s'ouvre devant nous.
The month of the Rosary calls us to renew our faith and strengthen our prayer life with Mary. The bishops of Togo encourage everyone to pray more sincerely, both individually and in community, asking God to bless our country, grant us the grace of true conversion, and open the way toward a brighter future for all.
D'un avenir meilleur pour tous.
For the bishops, rediscovering the Rosary means strengthening faith, cultivating hope, and reinforcing bonds of fraternity among Togolese.
Lome correspondent Sylvie Wadrago's report voiced by Imo Edet.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
In Guinea, the opposition groups have denounced the newly announced presidential election date, accusing the junta of backtracking on commitments made to ECOWAS in 2022. General Mamadi Doumbouya has set December 28, 2025 as the date for the presidential vote, a key step in the country's transition to democratic rule. He also signed into law the recently adopted electoral code. While supporters view the move as progress toward restoring constitutional order, critics say it disrupts the agreed election sequence. The opposition coalition Forces Vive of Guinea is holding internal consultations and has yet to issue a unified response. Still in Guinea, it has been 16 years since the massacre of September 28, 2009. More than 150 people were killed during a repression of a peaceful protest in Conakry. After 13 years of waiting, historic trial opened in 2022. At its conclusion in July 2024, 8 accused, including Musa Dadis Camara, the head of the junta at the time of the events, were convicted of crimes against humanity. However, the victims of the massacre had filed an appeal to challenge the presidential pardon granted to Dadis Camara. They are requesting the opening of the appeal trial as well as the supplementary hearing. One of the victims' lawyers, Maître Hamidou Bari, spoke to Mustafa Jakite.
It is essential to see this trial through, including the supplementary trial and appeal. All the victims must be compensated. Those who were raped, those who disappeared, the dead, the injured, and those who lost property. This, I believe, is what must be done.
Is everything ready for the supplementary trial?
Vous savez, il y a 7 accusés qui doivent être jugés bientôt.
There is a supplementary trial. After it is held, the 2 procedures will be consolidated to avoid multiple proceedings in the case. This is what justice intends to do. The supplementary trial involves 6 accused, including Mr. Georges Olemu. The court has already been formed since August 25th, with prosecutors and clerks appointed. We are waiting for the end of the judicial recess, which ends on September 30th. The trial may take place in October or November.
Metro Hamidou Bari is a lawyer for one of the victims of 2009 stadium massacre in Guinea. In diplomatic news, international relations expert Professor Kwadio Apeagi Atwa has welcomed the U.S. decision to lift visa restrictions on Ghana but criticized the government's reported agreement to accept deported West African nationals, widely seen as reason behind Washington's policy reversal. The U.S. Embassy confirmed the change over the weekend, restoring full validity for all non-immigrant visa categories. The move follows a statement from Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Okodzeto Blakwa after months of diplomatic negotiations. Professor Abiagi Atwa shared his views on the development.
I think we may see it as good news in the sense that people want to travel for business, for academic purposes, for pleasure, and also taking into account the fact that next year part of the World Cup is going to be held in the US. So in that sense, it's good news for a large segment of the Ghanaian population. And I think it also heralds the fact that relationships are improving between the 2 countries, and Ghana is not seen as a country that should be added to the list of countries where, for various reasons, we are not in the good books of the United States. So the other side of it, which probably we need to address our mind to, but which maybe we have not, or some people may not consider it as necessary. But it's about what we had to give away to be able to get restored to this status that we used to enjoy. Between the US and Ghana, you may see it as positive, but within the sub-region, it's not a good sign. It's as if we have betrayed some of our neighbors, or at least citizens in those countries. But also the fact that we had to violate our own laws to be able to attain that status or restore that relationship between us and the US is not good. And so we need to make sure that we do the right things to get the right relationship between us and the US.
Well, more analysis with Professor Kadwa Apage Atwa in the guest interview segment. In Nigeria, insecurity continues to claim lives as suspected bandits killed at least 12 people in an early morning attack on a community in Kwara State. The incident underscores growing concerns about the spread of violent groups from the country's northwestern region into other parts of Nigeria. WDR's Usman Omar has more.
The attack happened on Sunday morning when gunmen stormed Okeode in Ifelodun local government area of Kwara State. According to security sources, the assailants targeted a hybrid force camp in the community, leaving 9 vigilante members and 3 civilians dead. By the time troops from a nearby base arrived, the attackers had already fled. The bodies of the victims were later evacuated to the Okeode police station as calm was restored. Though authorities say the area is now stable, residents describe the security situation as unpredictable. The incident adds to mounting fears that rural communities remain vulnerable despite government assurances of improved safety. Across Nigeria and the wider Sahel, banditry and armed violence have increasingly blurred the lines between criminal activity and terrorism. Security analysts warn that these attacks not only threaten lives but also deepen mistrust in state protection mechanisms. According to monitoring groups, Nigeria has recorded more than 400 violent incidents since January this year, leaving over 2,500 people dead and thousands displaced, figures that highlight the scale of insecurity still confronting the country. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on wadr.org. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Trial of former Malian Prime Minister Moussa Mara opens in Bamako. Guinea's opposition slams new election date, cites ECOWAS deal breach. Ivorian religious leaders call for peace ahead of October 25 election. An international relations expert welcomes U.S. visa restriction reversal on Ghana, but criticizes country for accepting West African deportees. Still ahead in the news, we have press review, guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Let's now turn our attention to happenings in Liberia. The Civil Service Agency, CSA, has issued a warning to faculty members of rural universities and colleges in Liberia following a nationwide go-slow strike action. The strike, initiated by the Rural Universities and Colleges Faculty Association, is a protest against poor living conditions, salary disparities, inadequate housing, transportation issues, and insufficient budgetary allocations. WDR Monrovia correspondent Abraham Parker reports.
This situation coincides with ongoing salary disputes at the state-run University of Liberia, where lecturers are also currently out of class due to unsettled payments. According to the Rural Universities Association's Secretary General Philip Kwame, these issues have persisted despite normal engagements with the Liberian government.
RUFA has been patient, responsible, and peaceful in its approach. Yet, the silence and inaction of the government leave us with no alternative but to proceed with our planned indefinite industrial strike act. This strike is demand for fairness, equity, and justice. RUFA will ensure that this strike action is sustained, our demands are met, and all faculties are not allowed to hold on any of the campuses till further notice from RUFA.
In response, the CSA, through Director General Josiah Joka, has threatened administrative measures against instructors who will participate in the strike, citing civil service regulations. This response, which is surfaced on social media, has been met with criticism from the public, who view the CSA's communication as insensitive to the plight of rural teachers. However, the association has strongly condemned the CSA's reaction, accusing it of reducing a legitimate national concern to a mere go-slow threat and displaying glaring insensitivity to the realities confronting the nation's educators. They further criticized the CSA Director General for dismissing their grievances as unclear, calling it a disgrace to the very essence of intellectual honesty. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker reporting from Monrovia.
Now to migration matters. Over the weekend here in Senegal, the Navy has intercepted a boat carrying nearly 300 people attempting to migrate illegally off the coast of Dakar. This comes amid a sharp rise in sea departures to Europe. Just days earlier, 142 migrants were also stopped at sea. While no lives were lost, the growing number of attempts is raising serious concerns. Augustine Coley reports.
On Saturday, 282 people attempting to immigrate were rescued off the coast of Dakar while their pirogue was heading to Europe. 2 days earlier, on Thursday, 142 were intercepted and taken to the naval base in Dakar. Among these migrants were women and children. They came from various nationalities, including Senegalese, Gambians, and Bissau Guineans. According to the Senegalese National Navy, the interceptor pirogues mostly come from neighboring countries. Recent measures taken by Senegalese authorities to combat illegal immigration mean that these pirogues are quickly located and stopped. Despite this, many Senegalese remain ready to brave the sea for Europe. According to Mouhamadou Barrow, president of the Migration Commission in the commune of Mbour, Western Senegal, increasing awareness is therefore necessary.
To effectively tackle the issue of irregular migration, Senegal must go beyond punitive measures. The government, working alongside communities and local authorities, needs to continue raising awareness, implement development projects, chances for young people and foster a message of hope, especially for youth striving for a better future. It is this combined approach that can help curb the phenomenon and prevent the dangerous journeys by sea or through the deserts that are claiming many lives in Senegal and across Africa.
In its report published in June 2025, the NGO Caminando Fronteras documented 1,865 deaths or disappearances between January 1 and May 31 along the Euro-African western border.
Augustine Coley filed that report.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Let's join Usman Omar for the newspaper review from Nigeria.
Hello and welcome to the press review segment from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Of course, we'll be taking a look at 3 Nigerian newspapers today: The Punch, Vanguard, and the Leadership newspaper. Let's begin with The Punch. Security forces in Nigeria say they have destroyed 6 illegal oil refining sites in the Niger Delta. This is part of a wider campaign against crude theft and environmental damage. The Navy reports the facilities were dismantled in Warri South, Delta State. For countries around the Gulf of Guinea, the operation underscores continuing risks from illicit bunkering that fund organized crime and destabilize the maritime economy. Still in The Punch, the Nigeria Customs Service says it has launched a one-stop shop reform to cut cargo clearance times at ports to just 48 hours. Officials say faster clearance will boost trade and reduce costs. Vanguard, of course, leads with labor unrest. The oil workers union, that is Pengason, has declared a nationwide strike over disputes at the Dangote refinery. The federal government has summoned both sides for talks, seeking to prevent fuel supply disruptions. For the region, leadership takes the same line but stresses government reassurances that contingency measures will keep supplies steady. And finally, Vanguard reports a fresh alert from Nigeria Securities and Exchange Commission over AI-generated Ponzi schemes. Regulators warn that scammers now use synthetic audio, video, and other forms of documents to deceive investors. That's the press review for today as I hand you back to the studios.
Thank you very much, Usman Omar, with the newspaper review.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
In our guest interview segment this afternoon, we head back to Ghana as the United States officially lifts visa restrictions on Ghanaian nationals, restoring full validity for all non-immigrant visa categories. The decision follows months of negotiations and a statement by Foreign Minister Samuel Okoze Blakwa. While seen as a diplomatic win, concerns have been raised over Ghana's reported agreement to accept deported West African nationals, a move some believe triggered the U.S. reversal. To analyze the implications, international law expert Professor Kwadwo Apagi Atwa joins Naditi Tete for this interview.
We have to look at it. It is not a government policy that led to the U.S. decision to reduce or to limit visa restrictions or to make it more difficult for Ghanaians to go abroad. It is individuals who sought to abuse the process and so on. So it's not a government decision. And so for that reason, it is not right for government to step in to try and protect or to pave way for people or to pay for the sins of a few people who have violated or abused the system that has led to where we are today. We talk about students as well who go to the US and don't go to school and so on. It is their personal individual decisions, which I think Ghana itself should not take it lightly. But on the other hand, it is not just these 11 deportees, people who were deported into the country that we're talking about. More are coming.
The Foreign Affairs Minister mentioned that we're expecting some 40 more.
Exactly, yes. And that is a bigger number. And so if Ghana is seen as a source for outsourcing some of the negative practices of the United States. It doesn't bode well for our image, even as a member of the United Nations. And so it is important that we recognize that and not do anything that will be about having a good name in the good books of Donald Trump, but then having a bad name for ourselves in the West African sub-region. It is very important we take note of that. And not only that, it's a violation of our Constitution, and it's a violation of decisions by as far as the Supreme Court. And what is interesting also is that these things happened, the decisions by the Supreme Court, that such steps taken by the government violates our Constitution, was made during the time of the NDC administration when President Mahama was president and when the current Attorney General was the Deputy Attorney General. So they know what they are doing is clearly wrong, but they want to create the impression that they are helping doing humanitarian work and so on, which is actually not true.
On that humanitarian ground element, what does it say now with this also coming to light? That the Foreign Affairs Minister said there was nothing that the country benefited from with regard to no monetary benefits whatsoever. This was purely humanitarian grounds. And then this coming up at this point in time, a lot of people say now it makes sense. It may not have been monetary, but clearly government had to give up something for that.
Yeah, so the humanitarian argument is flawed. It is seriously flawed, and it actually insults the intelligence of Ghanaians, because you are saying that you want to help these people by bringing them to Ghana, but the people themselves had even filed a case in a U.S. court challenging their deportation. So what is humanitarian about it?
Professor Kwadwo Apiagi Atwa is an international law expert. Well, in sports, Ivorian side ASEC Mimosas saw their CAF Champions League run end in heartbreak at home. After a goalless first leg, Suleiman Fofana put ASEC ahead in the 53rd minute, but a red card to Suleiman Seko shifted the momentum. The match ended 1-1 on aggregate, and in the shootout, Romantic Amosu missed provide desire as Power Dynamos converted all 5 penalties to win. A tough exit for the Ivorian side, who run their focus on the local league now. Well, here in Senegal, disappointment for Dakar as Jaraf bowed out of the CAF Confederation Cup, falling 1-0 at home to Cameroon's Colombe. A narrow defeat rather sees the Senegalese side exit 1-0 on aggregate. And in the English Premier League, Arsenal produced late drama at St James Park to beat Newcastle 2-1. Liverpool suffered their first defeat of the season after a 2-1 defeat by Crystal Palace. Goals from Senegal international Ismaila Sarr and Eddie Nketiah earned the London side all the 3 points. And Atletico Madrid thrashed Real Madrid 5-2 in the Madrid derby in the Spanish La Liga during the weekend. This concludes this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for tuning in, and special thanks to Mustafa Sek and Ismaila Kamara for the technical support. Connect with us on our social media platforms, X and Instagram at WADR English, and on Facebook, WADR English Service, or listen to us live at WADR.org. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is our flagship health program, Well Body with Imo Edet. I am Sankule Janko. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Niba County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Baf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views,